Just got a haircut. I think it's a perfect topic to talk about this. As it's purple, I feel like I'm a SJW. And got some sizing. Got a free haircut. Apparently it's a grand opening. So, I wouldn't expect myself to talk about this topic, to be honest. And let's talk about white privilege. Now, for those who doesn't know, this year I've dropped out of uni and I've did social work, which is a hardcore feminist lefty, SJW, etc, etc, whatever you guys label. And now I'm studying aged care certificate 3 through trade school. Now the teacher was mentioning those who in the age, like we were studying a new topic, which is diversity. Now when you think about diversity, you think about to not offend obviously you cannot offend or being racist or Islamic phobic or things like that. That's what uni is all about, right? Or try to be sensitive, try not to name certain cultures and things like that. But today it's very different side of diversity, because diversity, we're talking about more elderly. And I'll get back to the white privilege thing. So you're so bombarded with this white privilege thing, in university. My mate, he's Italian, and apparently this is the semester I dropped out. And I didn't attend. A teacher is announcing every single white student in their class, especially men, boys, to announce their privilege and be sorry for it. So apparently I have to announce it, because apparently I don't know how this white privilege works, because I was born in Australia, so I have white on me. So okay. Anyways, today they were, my class was like the teachers talking about, we talk about diversity, talk about the Holocaust, and some of your resident is like client, but we say resident in aged care, resident that may come across as going through war torn. They may hide under the bed if they hear like a ceremony, like war gunshots or particular sirens or perhaps some planes and things like that. And I was like, okay, did not know about diversity is part of that. And to talk about like the Anglo-Saxon and as well the Protestant and the Catholics. As me as a Chinaman, I don't think I quite understand the whole thing. I know Protestant is the top of the food chain, and then you got the Anglo-Saxon. I don't know how it works, but the teacher talks about it, and amongst our class there's like three of them who's coming from has like a English or Scottish blood, and they talk about it. And it's a very fascinating thing, because you never hear this sort of talk, but obviously they're in their midlife crisis, therefore they were doing this course. And like the teachers started to begin like diversity is not just cultural or things like that. They just talk about like certain cultures, you cannot assume just because he's Chinese doesn't mean that their Chinese is all the same. They have the different different beliefs and different, you just gotta ask, you just gotta know, and things like that. And I don't know why the teacher is blabbing on and talk about politics, about Trump and things like that. And I know she even said it out in today's class that she is not traditional feminist, and she support all women. And for me, I'm like, okay, all good, as long as she's announced it, I don't mind. I'm not gonna say anything, I'm not gonna do anything, I'm not gonna get triggered, as long as she's being upfront, not like most teachers that don't say it out. And it talks along the line, wanting to find out every single information about culture. Tell me about something different about your culture and things like that. And clearly the entire class couldn't pay attention, because she's just yapped on all the way through. The only ones that could able to keep up her her talk is the ones at the back who are interested, knows what she's talking about, like with the UK, with the English. Well, for me, I don't know, like they talk about the slangs and things like that, which I don't know as well. Okay, now let's get to the topic. So after the whole thing, asking one by one, oh, tell me about culture or things like that, or tell me, this and that. Those who are Protestant or Anglo-Saxon do not like to have a certain minority or migrants to care for them, because they don't like that. Maybe they've been traumatized, they went to war, or maybe there is culture clash, because every single country has been to war, and they will say which country they hate or still memorized and things like that. And somehow she talks about Japan invading America or some war, and I'm like, well, it's not really related to us, because clearly it was the US Navy. We don't live in US, we live in Australia. So they talk about this, Protestant and things like that, and talks about, oh, what's a low class or what's a middle class. Apparently farmers who owns the land is considered middle class, and those who are goes to schools, or if they find out you go to elite school, you're automatically known to be that class or this. If you go to school, they already know which class they are. So fast forward. So they talk about the Protestant and things like that, how it's so good and things like that, and talk about culture. Let's talk about culture. And she pointed out one table in front of me, and clearly that table didn't heard anything or listen to anything. Couldn't even answer her, like, oh, what's the difference of culture clash, because they didn't even pay attention. So I raised my hand. I said, well, I'm surprised, or I said it right in front of me, I'm surprised that we're having this this conversation, like Protestant or things like that, which I never heard of, or things like that. Me who just got out of university, being traumatized, I didn't say traumatized, a PTSD, to hate on, the whites, to hate on the Protestant, the Anglo-Saxons, the Catholics. And it stirred the whole class up, saying that, Will, are you saying this because you're coming from Victoria University? And I'm like, no, it's not just my university, it's a lot of university. I name drop a couple of university, the big ones, and I name drop them, and I say, look, this is what's happening in university environment, this and this and this university is going through that, and it's a trend now. It's amongst on the Western civilization. Now obviously those who understand this topic, obviously the teacher, she knows what exactly I was talking about, and then you got the Antifa classmate who likes to wear proud on his Antifa badge. They act like they don't know anything. So I'm like, think it's a trend now to hate white, things like that, and this culture should be mindful. I don't know what makes me triggered to say that, but it just draws that. And classmates are all against me, and one of the classmates saying that, oh, you're just saying it because of the recent movement with the it has to 100% has to be with the indigenous. And I said to her, I'm like, it's part of it. And I dropped a hint in saying that, well, the third wave feminism has introduced the intersectionality, will prioritize those who are being marginalized, being down below of the hierarchy, and should be going on top. To enter what the privilege is like for the white privilege and things like that. And the classmates had to, two of them started to talk about it, started to agree, oh, there's a bit of changes, there's a trend. The teacher immediately called in for a break. Alright students, let's go for a break, because she knows where is this conversation is going to head to. Now I'm not here to try to be a savior, alright? I'm just here to try, I think a lot of people in my class, and those, I think this thing is like a new thing, like a white privilege, and what is going on nowadays. Obviously those who are in midlife crisis will never go through that. Those who go through understand this is if you understand, if you're in politics or perhaps in university or high school. It's because one of the girls talk about, oh, it must be, yeah, she kind of felt like that, especially with attending certain events, and he's talk about indigenous all the time. you have to be sorry, invaded their land, this and that, blah blah blah. It's their land. And another one is talking about, yeah, I've been talking about this. I didn't quite understand why it was running through in history in high school. That's when the teachers are stopped. But at the same time, during the break, and they start to come up to me and talk about, like, he still come up to me and say, oh, this Antifa guys, it has to be VU. And I'm like, no, it is just, VU is my university I use. No, I said, it's a trend now, and I think I've stirred something. I think everyone wants to kind of hide this topic, but I wasn't there trying to expose anything. I'm just trying to there is like, be mindful. Don't, because you telling me, this is reverse racism, because you have to hate white, but you have to minorities is all tick boxes, where you give us studies to focus on person-centered approach and as well human rights. So, which I know it doesn't work like that in the lefty world, but I'm just set it out because I think the culture has changed, and just be mindful how the culture and the trend right now is the white privilege. And I've started to think deeply, and start a jigsaw puzzle in the past on my education that I have. And definitely the feminist teachers, they really hate the 10-pound joke. The 10-pound joke refers to, for those who doesn't know history about Australia, Australia was the explorer Captain James Cook has located the geograph of Australia. But you have Arthur Phillip was the one who comes to New South Wales and has just firstly established Australia. So the first state was New South Wales. So the first wave was the conflict. The second wave was the woman who got impregnated back in England or UK. If it's UK back in the 1788 to England. And the third and fourth and fifth and sixth wave is usually encouraging the white policy as well, encouraging the English, then after the Scottish, the Wales and everything, and we call it the 10-pound joke. The 10-pound joke usually refers to the English, because the English has the first preference to come to this country. Then after that, then you got the Wales, the Scots, the Irish and things, and then after that you got the Eastern Europeans, who as long as they're white. And after that, we've got the multiculturalism kicks in Australia, 1975. The teachers start banging on, all that. And for me to even, for you guys, if you manage to watch the video to this point, I started to think of myself like saying, I think, with the studies and, with the current trend of saying white privilege, it's the goal is to not to have the 10-pound jokes, or those who have English blood or very high privilege white, not to get into the politics, because the teachers really hate it. Like the feminists, radical feminists, they hate it. They don't like the whole bloodstream of male privilege, white, English, who is coming from a 10-pound joke, to run the country again, because they keep running, because they keep electing the same people, because they're part of the, if they're coming from elite school, they know the upper class, and they have the social friend, they elect their social friends to be part of who runs the country, or who part of the politics. So which is like saying hooking the person up, or setting up connections. Let's just say connections. So it now, for me to step back, even though haven't been going to uni for 6 months, I step back and realize, I think that's the main reason why they want to bash on white men, because of, they're too successful throughout the history, colonization and things like that. It's time for white woman or minority to step up this time. And this is one of the way to doesn't matter what sort of elite school or what sort of school you go to, they'll destroy your mindset and marking low once you go to university, because alright, you're secure to go to elite schools or Catholics or private schools. Once you go to university, you play their own rule. It may challenge your conservative or religious ideas, or your upbringing. Now, I know one of my teachers who has brought up in a Catholic high school. Now, I did not know what's it like over there, the schools, and she's been telling me she has never learned anything about sex education or gender studies. Now, I think this is being pushed towards the public sector now, and she's like, the moment she went to uni, she was like a culture shock. And I guess now you have this sort of white privilege talk is banging it really hard. I wish I can say one more, tell my classmate about, don't you realize the politics recent months has been talking about the phrase of it's okay to be a white. I think most people do not understand the terminology, what's behind, or what it actually causes, because only people, like I said before, only people who understand this sort of stuff is those who go to university or in politics or get to that stage or high school. So that's how I decode or understand, or I felt like I feel alright after I announced the white privilege, saying that, I said to the class, like, well, before we talk very good on these sort of groups, but when I go to university, we're meant to hate or perhaps eliminate based on sociology and gender studies and things like that, indigenous studies. Everyone's just shocked to hear. I don't know how my purple hair goes through. Gosh. That's the video that I would like to talk about, and it's okay to be white, or perhaps you talk about, what is going on with the left. You have to be a soy boy or things like that to be part of the group. You know what? I don't really bother, because I only got like 2 weeks left for this class, for this course, and I'm finished and I'm back to the age game. That's it. I'm happy. So would it backfire me? I don't know. Would this video will backfire me on my career? I don't know. But what I do know, conservatives are getting silenced, and not just conservative, but those who has logic gets shut down. It's sad. I don't know. Now my next step is try to figure out, okay, now this white privilege is banging on us, and now you got Me Too and sexual assault and surveys and what is going to happen? Is this going to be a trend, or is this going to be ongoing? Because I feel like this is ongoing, planting the seeds at the young people's mind. And what's the after effect? This is just going to be mass utopia for sure. For sure.